If you ever hear the sound of chains being dragged across the sky, do not look up, it means they've noticed you. I used to think the night sky was the safest thing to stare at. It was eternal, constant, and quiet, stars stitched into velvet darkness, the moon like a cold lantern suspended in endless black. But last winter, when I was driving back from a late shift on a deserted highway, I learned something I wasn't supposed to know. I learned that the sky isn't as empty as it looks. It began with a sound. Not thunder, not the low hum of an approaching storm, but the unmistakable scrape of chains being dragged over metal. At first, I thought it was coming from the bed of a passing truck, but the road was barren for miles. I rolled down the window, thinking maybe my tires have caught something loose. But no, the noise was coming from above. It had a rhythm, uneven yet deliberate, like something impossibly huge shifting its weight just beyond the veil of stars. The strangest part wasn't the sound itself, but the way it affected everything around me. The crickets fell silent, the air seemed to still, and even my engine felt muted, as though reality itself had hushed in reverence, or fear. Then I remembered something my grandfather once told me when I was a child, a story I laughed off as superstition. He said, "If you ever hear chains in the sky, boy, don't you dare look up. Keep your eyes on the earth. If you look, they'll know you're aware, and once they know, you're theirs." I should have listened. Curiosity is a poison. I slowed the car and, against every warning instinct in my body, tilted my head back. At first, I saw nothing but stars. Then one of them shifted. Not twinkled, shifted, like it had been hiding behind something vast and only now slid into view. My breath caught in my throat as I saw it, an outline too large to comprehend, stretching across the night, its surface glinting faintly like metal. Chains, thick as skyscrapers, dragged across the darkness, links sparking faint blue fire where they scraped against unseen surfaces of the cosmos. And then, movement. Something inside the chains. Something restrained. I could make out the faintest suggestion of limbs pressing against their bindings, vast and wrong, bending light itself as it strained to move. The stars weren't stars at all, they were eyes, watching, blinking open one by one, turning downward as if testing to see who was foolish enough to look. And I had looked. I tore my gaze back to the road, my body trembling, but it was already too late. I could feel it, an awareness pressing down on me, heavy and suffocating. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind, "Once they know, you're theirs." My hands shook so badly on the wheel that I nearly swerved into a ditch. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of something impossible, chains stretching down from the heavens, glistening as though wet, descending slowly, silently, toward the earth. I drove like a madman, refusing to glance back, refusing to acknowledge the weight in the air that seemed to follow me all the way home. That night, I locked every door and drew every curtain, but it didn't matter. I could still hear them. The dragging chains scraped across the sky until dawn. Since that night, I've heard them 3 more times. Each time, the sound grows louder, closer. My nights are sleepless, filled with dread that one day I'll look out my window and see those chains snaking down into my yard. My only comfort is knowing that I can warn you. So listen to me, whoever you are, wherever you are, if you ever hear the sound of chains being dragged across the sky, do not look up. Do not seek what's making it. Keep your eyes down, your lights off, and pray they do not notice you. Because if they do, you will never again feel alone beneath the stars. They will follow you. It doesn't matter if you move houses, travel across the country, or even lock yourself in a room without windows. Once you've looked up and acknowledged the sound of those chains dragging across the heavens, you've allowed yourself to be counted. They'll begin quietly at first, testing the edges of your awareness, shadows passing behind street lamps, the faint scrape of metal when the night is too still, or a heavy presence pressing down whenever you step outside. The worst part is, they make sure you notice them. They don't strike right away. No, they savor the waiting. You'll find yourself glancing at the sky compulsively, terrified of seeing them again, yet unable to stop. It's like your instincts betray you, guiding your eyes upward even as your mind screams not to. People who've been marked this way often vanish. Neighbors move away suddenly. Families claim their loved ones ran off in the middle of the night. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that their homes remain quiet, sealed shut, as if the very walls still remember what came to take them. I heard once about a man in our town, a bus driver, who ignored the warnings. He claimed he wasn't afraid of superstition. Every night when he heard the rattling above, he would deliberately step into his yard and stare into the dark sky, searching for the source. He laughed at the idea of chains in the clouds. But one night he didn't come back inside. His wife swore she heard a booming clank of iron followed by silence, so total it smothered even the crickets. The next morning, the bus driver's shoes were on the porch. Just the shoes. Neatly placed side by side. No footprints leading away. Those who've studied the phenomenon say the chains are not merely sounds but instruments of binding. They don't drag them out of weariness, they drag them because the chains stretch across dimensions, anchoring something vast and unseen to our world. Every time you look, you acknowledge their tether, and in return, they tighten it around you. That's why victims often feel a heaviness in their limbs or wake with bruises they can't explain. The chains aren't metaphorical. They're wrapping you, inch by inch, until there's no escape. And the final tightening, the last pull, happens when the sky opens. That's when they reel you upward. Imagine it, the sound intensifying until it drowns out your thoughts, rattling louder than thunder, shaking the very air. People say the stars flicker and vanish, not because the night is cloudy, but because something enormous passes between you and them. They say you feel a sudden tug, like your soul being yanked from your spine. Some scream, but most don't get the chance. By the time your mind registers what's happening, you're already gone. They pull you into the dark above, into whatever place they inhabit beyond the veil of sky. And if you're unlucky enough to hear someone else being taken, never, ever look. Cover your ears, close your eyes, and pray the chains aren't dragging for you. And yet, some survivors claim that once you've been marked, it's not the end. There's a cruel mercy. They let you live, sometimes for years, but never in peace. You'll hear them every time the night deepens. The sound of iron dragging overhead becomes your lullaby, your curse. No one else notices. Friends might chuckle when you ask if they hear the chains, or stare at you with concern, thinking you're ill. But when you're alone, in the dead of night, the sound is so close you'll swear sparks should be raining down from the sky. And when you finally break, because everyone does, they descend. The sky doesn't just take you, it unfolds like a mouth, swallowing you whole. The scariest part isn't the thought of dying. It's what happens afterward. A few people, very few, claim to have escaped after being dragged upward. Their stories don't make sense, their memories are fractured. They describe towering figures draped in rusted links, faceless beings whose bodies shimmer like molten iron yet move with inhuman grace. They whisper that those who are taken aren't destroyed but added to the weight of the chains. That's why the sound grows louder each year. Each captive becomes another length in the endless tether, stretched across the cosmos, dragging forever. So when you hear it, do not look up. Not because it will kill you instantly, but because the moment you do, you are bound. And no one truly escapes the pull forever. And remember this, the next time you step outside and admire the stars, thinking you're alone with your thoughts, listen carefully. If you hear the faint, steady clink of iron far above, it means they've noticed you. And the moment you tilt your head skyward, the moment you seek the source, they'll know. The chains will tighten. Because if they do, you will never again feel alone beneath the stars. You'll feel the links forever, dragging, rattling, reminding you. And eventually, one night when you've forgotten to be afraid, you'll hear the chains stop. Silence. That's when you should run, though it won't matter. Because silence means they're no longer dragging. Silence means they're already here. That silence isn't peaceful, it isn't the quiet of a cool night where the crickets sing and the air feels soft. No, this silence is swollen, heavy, suffocating, like the whole world is holding its breath. Even the insects vanish into it, as if they know what waits overhead. The first time I felt that kind of silence, it was different from anything I'd ever known. It pressed against my chest like a weight, and before I could even look up, before I could even dare to, I heard it, metal grinding against metal, dragging, echoing across the sky as though something unfathomably vast was pulling itself just above the clouds. A sound that didn't belong to any machine on Earth, a sound too immense, too cruel to be human. Chains, endless chains. I told myself not to look. I remembered the warning passed down in drunken whispers, old voices cracking in fear. If the chains sing above you, if the air dies around you, don't look up. Don't ever look up. But human instinct is weak, curiosity a disease. My eyes betrayed me. My neck tilted before my mind could stop it, and I saw. God, I wish I hadn't. They weren't stars anymore, not the way you and I know them. The night sky was torn open like paper soaked in black ink, and through it, shapes leaned down, colossal and skeletal, bodies made of shadow and silver flame, eyes that weren't eyes at all but hollow sockets lined with fire. Each of them was bound in chains, impossibly large, clattering, pulling taut as though they were straining to descend. They writhed in silence, vast limbs shifting like mountains in the sky. The chains glowed faintly, like veins filled with liquid lightning, dragging across the clouds, etching sparks into the darkness. And they moved together, perfectly together, like prisoners marching, like a procession that had been going on long before I was born. When their attention fell on me, I didn't feel like a person anymore. I didn't feel human. I felt like prey, small, breakable, fragile. My heart stuttered in my chest, not from fear, but from their notice, from the weight of it. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hunger. It was worse. It was recognition. They saw me. And in that moment, I knew the stories were true. Once they notice you, you will never again be free of them. I ran. What else could I do? My legs carried me through fields, over fences, past sleeping houses, but everywhere I went the chains scraped above me. They followed, grinding across the heavens, shaking with each step I took. The silence went with me too. No dogs barked, no crickets chirped, no wind touched the grass. Only the sound of the chains, only the sense that something immense was stalking the edges of the world just to keep pace with me. And though I didn't dare look again, I could feel them there, swaying against the sky like titans reaching for the ground. That was years ago. At least, I think it was. Time feels different now. They've never left me. I can't walk under an open night without hearing the first faint scrape, the dull metallic hum that grows louder until the world dies into silence again. People beside me don't hear it. They laugh, they smoke, they tell me I'm imagining things, but their words vanish the moment the air goes still, as though even their voices are swallowed up. I don't argue anymore. I don't try to convince anyone. What good would it do? They can't hear the chains. They aren't the ones being followed. The worst part is the dreams. When I sleep, I dream of being suspended by those same chains, wrists and ankles bound, dragged across a sky I don't recognize. Below me is nothing, only a black void, endless and eternal. Above me, those hollow-eyed giants stand shoulder to shoulder, watching as I'm pulled farther into the abyss. Their eyes burn without warmth, and sometimes, God help me, sometimes they smile. Not with mouths, but with the twisting of their chains, with the gleam of fire running through their iron legs. As if binding me is joy to them. As if watching me dangle in silence is their only purpose. I've thought about ending it. Ending myself. Maybe that would free me, maybe that would sever whatever tie was made when I first looked up. But I can't. Not because I'm afraid to die, but because I don't think death is an escape. Every instinct tells me they are waiting for that moment. That they want me to break. That the second my body ceases, my soul will still hear the sound of chains clattering in the dark, only closer, louder, inescapable. Sometimes, I try to test it. I close my eyes and step outside at night, force myself to listen. When the silence falls, I whisper into it, daring them. I know you're there. And for a heartbeat, nothing answers. But then the chains crash so loud, so violently, that the ground trembles beneath my feet, as if the sky itself is pulling closer. I never last more than a second before running inside, slamming doors, shutting blinds like those thin scraps of wood could keep out God's bound and fire. But here's the truth I've learned, the one nobody told me in those whispered warnings: it's not just about looking up. That's only the beginning. Once they notice you, once their gaze burns through your skin and their chains scrape above your head, there's no undoing it. You carry them with you forever. You belong to them. And one day, though I don't know when, those chains won't just drag across the sky anymore. They'll drag down. And when that happens, when the silence falls and does not lift, when the chains finally reach the ground and the hollow-eyed titans descend, it won't just be me they take. It'll be anyone near me, anyone foolish enough to share my night. Because the ones who are noticed don't walk alone anymore. The chains follow them, bind them, spread through them like a disease. So if you hear it, if one night you're walking under the stars and the world suddenly goes silent, if you hear chains dragging through the dark sky above you, don't look up. Run. Leave everything behind and run until your lungs burn. Because if you so much as glance at them, if you give them that single moment of recognition, they will notice you too. And once they do, once the silence marks you as theirs, you will never again walk alone beneath the stars.